Hello, everybody. I'm Axel1324, and welcome to my channel. The E3 hype train has come and gone. Xbox dominated E3 with the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. And today, myself, Dreadpool, and Mike Mullis of Next Level Gaming are going to give you our thoughts on the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. Let's get into it.
What made this year's Xbox E3 special? I think part of it was just from the get-go, right? Let's just stop and think about it. There wasn't much expectations in the long run. They keep on failing at all these digital events that they did, the Xbox On, all these other shows that they just didn't hit the mark every time. There's always something that they added more than they should have, thinking it was going to be good filler, good entertainment, and it just didn't hit the market right. And this one, it was mostly games. They brought on, later on, but it was mostly games. So we got to see trailer after trailer and got to experience the first time sighting of certain games. So there was a lot of stuff going on, and I think that's what happened. It was mostly about games. They didn't bring in a studio acquisition like everybody was rumoring that it was going to be on. We're going to have 28 this time that they're going to announce, and so all the extra stuffing that they normally put in these shows, these digital shows, they left out this time. They just gave you the meat. That's what we wanted, was the meat. For these trailers and the games, we wanted to see gameplay. We got gameplay. We wanted to see new games. We finally saw new games. We saw some teasers. We saw some, hey, check this out, check that out, and it was just nonstop flooding of the market, right? You said deluge, I said plethora. It's all the same difference. It was just a lot of what we wanted, and I think that's what came out finally, because Aaron Greenberg didn't come out and say temper your expectations. He didn't say nothing. He just kept his mouth shut, because usually it's either one way or the other, and it's like, yeah, everybody overhypes or they underhype, and yet again they never deliver. This time they delivered, and I think that's really what did it. We finally also got to see the roots of where these games are coming from. We got to see and know, on top of that, we know that there are other games in that pipeline that we don't know about. So some games were a surprise, like Forza. We thought we were going to get it was I'd say a 50-50 split in the community, that it was going to be Forza Motorsport or Forza Horizon, and technically Forza Motorsport should have been next, but I guess they're not ready with it just yet, and Horizon was, so they pushed that one forward. So it was cool to see these games push the limits and still, at the same time be backwards compatible with or cross-gen, whatever you want to call it, with these one consoles, and still utilize the best of the series consoles. So we see what's going on there. We know that the cloud gaming is coming in, so we can see the direction that these games are starting to back up. It's not like we're waiting for the games. Now the games are backing up on themselves, where they're able to push them out because there's other games that are going to be available for us to play. There's so many games between first party and third party, second party, that it's all going to be there, and they're all backing up against each other. So that way they have time, and this is what we've wanted, right? We wanted them to fine tune these games. Don't push out the game just because you need to push it out. It has to come out this year. It has to come out because of this or that. We put the marketing in. It was good to see that these games, like I said, are being fine-tuned graphically. They're overhauled with their engines. They're overhauled with the graphics, and making a pristine experience, hopefully, because we haven't played them yet, so we don't know. But that's the outlook, is that we're going to have premium experience. It's not going to be rushed. And that's the beauty of this. There's so many variations of games that are coming out. We have a variety of games to pick and choose from. So when we do that, we have a lot of RPGs coming our way. There's so many people that are complaining that we don't get RPGs. We're known as I say we, Xbox is known as the first-person shooter, right? It's a shooter console, and it's not that anymore. It's a variety. You have a lot more kiddie games coming out. What was one of the things in the previous E3 was a lot of kiddie games, right? Now we still have kiddie games coming out because it's cornucopia, right? It's a cornucopia of games now. I'm throwing out these big words: plethora, deluge, cornucopia. But that's what we want, right? We want the availability to play the game that we like, and also the availability to try out other games. So, someone else is saying, hey, I tried this game on this service, or I tried this game because I bought it. Now you have the opportunity to try it out also on your console. And this is where having all these games backing up, being good quality, and just nonstop, just trickle feeding in at a good rate, not at a slow rate where we're dry for a season. There's a trickle of games coming out now. They've opened the faucet because there's a lot of back pressure. That back pressure is all those games. So I think this is why it turned out to be better than we expected. We weren't expecting much. It was going to be, oh great, what else are they going to do? Are we going to have more of this fluff that we don't want? We want, and I think that's really over the top. We finally got something. It was the best digital version that they've ever done of anything. And I've even tweeted it out there to Aaron Greenberg and Phil, letting them know that, bravo, finally we got what we wanted. Was there more that we wanted? Of course, we always want more, right? We always want the other games that they haven't announced. We always want the games that we do want, that we know that are years down the road, to see more of that, which even though we know we're not going to see everything, but there were those surprises, and that's a good thing. They still surprised us. And I think that's what made it the difference. Is we got what we wanted, we got the surprises, we got the gameplay, we got every little bit of everything we needed.
The Xbox conference, well, we'll call it the Xbox Bethesda conference because that's what they called it. That was a bright spot in an otherwise just underwhelming E3. So just on the start, and the fact that nothing major got leaked for their conference, because of course they're doing it privately because they're doing it, because of COVID and things like that. It's easier for them to hold things close to the chest. So now, after the conference was over, and me and my crew were talking about it because we had live reacted to it. I originally was sitting at kind of a high 7 as far as what I thought the conference was, because while we got what I would consider a smorgasbord of games, there, see what I did there? There were things missing out of that conference that I was expecting to see. I wanted to see Fable. I wanted to see Forza Motorsport. If nothing else, I wanted to see Hellblade 2. I felt like Microsoft was leaving some big guns on the table. They announced Avowed last year, and we didn't see anything on it. But as I had time to kind of ponder against the rest of E3, which was so underwhelming, I realized that Microsoft showed 90 minutes, almost 90 minutes. It wasn't quite 90 minutes. It was under, but showed just an enormous amount of gameplay footage. And, out of the 30 games they showed, 27 of them were coming to Game Pass. And so Game Pass took front and center, which, as somebody who is an advocate, a heavy advocate of Game Pass, it's Game Pass for me is like one of my favorite things in gaming, to be perfectly honest. So to see 27 games, including some games that I was really looking forward to, like 12 minutes, I wasn't expecting 12 minutes to hit Game Pass day one, and yet there it was. Games that I knew wouldn't be in Game Pass, though, those weren't. Far Cry and there were two others I can't remember off the top of my head. But then I realized, look, all the stuff that they're showing first party, all going to be in Game Pass. And so that was a plus for me. And I saw a lot that I wanted to see from that. I thought it was, pretty heavy of them to start the show with Starfield, and to give it a year out. Hit the middle with Halo when I think everybody expected them to either open or close with Halo, and then to end with a new Arcane game, which tells you how much they value the acquisition of ZeniMax. So as I continued to ponder, it dawned on me that we're going to get all these great games for the next year. Microsoft hasn't even shown their other big guns. Now, yes, Halo Infinite is their big gun for this year. But I would argue that Microsoft has a lot of big guns now, between all the studios that they have. We didn't see Fable, and we didn't see Perfect Dark, and we didn't see Avowed, and we didn't see Starfield for real. It was in game, but it wasn't any gameplay or anything like that. So we've got more of that to look at. We didn't see Hellblade 2. We didn't see, so these are coming. We didn't see Forza Motorsport. We saw Horizon, which was absolutely gorgeous. But they left a lot on the table because they could. And once I realized that they did that because they had so much to show that they could leave those out and bring them for, a later show or next E3, I sort of began realizing that Microsoft had a much better show than I gave it credit for. The other thing too is they were very succinct. There was we didn't see Phil Spencer until the end of the show, which was very telling. They opened with Todd Howard. And Todd Howard, if anybody really listened to his message, he began to use the words "we" when he talked about Bethesda and Xbox. When he talked about Microsoft, we. So he's on board with Microsoft. To see Sarah Bond come out, to see we didn't see Matt Booty at all, right? We didn't see Chris Charla at all. We saw other stars of the Microsoft team come out. We got to see Pete Hines come out and talk. It wasn't until the very end, which meant that Phil was, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. Phil I think is going to start stepping aside to let because he knows now with ZeniMax, he's got some heavy duty folks that can talk on his behalf. Everybody really kind of shuts up when Todd Howard starts talking. You pay attention. And there's an air about Pete. I've known Pete a long time. There's this confident, polished PR guy that has headlined his own press conferences that have been hot, and have sometimes at E3 been the talk of the show. So he knows he's got these people. There was no Aaron Greenberg out there. Mike Ibarra, of course, is not there anymore. So, so this is the team he's got that can come out and talk about the Microsoft message. So between all of that, I thought that they had a solid show. They know where they're headed. We know where they're headed, and that gave a respite to I think what the rest of a really poor and really what honestly just needs to go E3 was.
what made this E3 so great for me is that it was the best E3 showcase I've seen ever. I'm not that old in the E3 game. I didn't start watching until I believe it was E3 2016, maybe 2017. It was the one where they announced the Xbox Series X, the Scorpio. To me, E3 has always been an exciting time of getting to see the future, getting to see the games that are going to come, whether they come on time or come late. But what I love the most about this E3, what made it stand out, was just that due dates. Being in a pandemic and everything being delayed, it seems like Microsoft finally got into a groove of learning how to work from home, learning how to work with the pandemic. And we finally got some due dates on a lot of these games, some expectations. And we are also getting 6 games in 6 months, 3 of them being super brand new and 3 of them being PC ports. But there was really almost nothing on this E3 showcase, these 30 games that I saw that I didn't like. I did a video a while back of my top 16 games that I'm most excited about, but I seriously could have made that video about every single game, and video could have been twice as long. This E3 was all business. As far as the digital events are concerned, this was the best digital event Xbox had ever done. I mean, the Indies showcase with Twitch was tough to watch, and I love Indies, but I walked away from that one. The Xbox showcase last year, where they were showing off all the games, I couldn't even tell you any of the games other than Halo, and that's only because Halo kind of went into meme status due to the lighting effects, which shown now looks incredible, so I'm glad they delayed it. The showcase before that was the third-party games coming to Xbox Series X, and it wasn't great, some of those showings. Some of those games were definitely not ready to come to Xbox Series X. So Xbox has this history of digital events just not going for them, so there wasn't really a large expectation on my end. But man, they knocked it out of the park. I think now that they have figured out their formula, this is the way to do it. This is the way you should approach it. And who would have thought that Forza Horizon would have been the star of the show? That's another thing. Forza won the Best of E3, and I don't think a racing game has won Best of E3 since Gran Turismo back in the 90s. So that just goes to tell you how excited people are and how good that presentation was. And it also instills a lot of hope for Fable. As a huge Fable fan, I've played every Fable game under the sun, including Fable Coin Golf on Windows Phone. To see the engine rendering what it rendered, I can only imagine what it's going to render when it's on Fable with the great... I think the franchise is in good hands, and it instills hope. The Master Chief looks incredible. The multiplayer looks great, which, as we all know, while the campaign is very important to Halo, the multiplayer is its lifeline. That's its heartbeat. And that's the way it's going to go. And that multiplayer looks like so much fun. I can already imagine all the chaos that's going to happen, and I can't wait to get into these flights. I hope I get selected. And then, Bethesda came in with Starfield with the Creation Engine 2. What was presented was an in-engine cutscene. In other words, it wasn't pre-rendered CGI. And the game looked incredible. And the video has, I believe it's the most watched video out of the showcase on there. So there's a lot of hype for Starfield. The speakers were good. Todd Howard, Sarah Bond, and Phil Spencer, and the guys from Playground Games. All those speakers were just incredible. It didn't feel like we were drowning and waiting or bored. When there was finally something shown that I believe was going to be kind of a moment for me to catch my excitement to calm down, it ended up being replaced. And I'm not a big fan of pixel art games, but this one just blew my mind. And it turns out I didn't have any chance to calm down. It was just hit after hit. They were just showing a myriad of games, a myriad of genres. Huh? Did you see what I did there? Myriad? So we got this abundance of games, and I feel that this is finally Phil Spencer unleashed. This is Phil Spencer's Xbox finally. It's not just the shooter box, as it was known back in the original Xbox and the 360. It's not just Halo, Gears, Forza anymore, as it was known back during the Xbox One. Now it's first-person shooters, third-person shooters, action-adventure games, cartoony games, realistic games, real-time strategy games, best simulators out there. I mean, Xbox just has it all. This E3 just knocked it out of the park. It is the best E3 I've seen, and the most excitement that built up inside of me as I was watching. I was already excited to watch E3, and the more I watched, the more excited I got, and the more internal satisfaction I got out of this show. I really feel that Xbox is finally in their own, and we're finally seeing the fruits of Phil Spencer's labor. And this is finally Phil Spencer Unleashed, which is what we wanted. This is finally Microsoft being the behemoth that it is, being the force to be reckoned with and being recognized. And I just don't think people were ready for what was shown. People weren't expecting it. And, you know, for better or worse, I think Xbox has set themselves up in a really, really good light. And I don't know how they're going to top this next year, but I hope they do. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and listening to our impressions on the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase at E3. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What did you think about the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase? Let me know in the comments below, and I will catch you guys next time.